Can anyone make a full sheet of all these recommended supplements with the recommended amount spelled out in plain English like we're kindergartners? And they're like, I guess I didn't look at the label until I got home. Will this still work?
Well, any horse dewormer should do it, right?
Yeah, why not?
It doesn't matter what the chemical is in it.
They just saw the picture of the horse and it said apple flavor, and they were like, "That's
I think it's the apple flavoring that is that's the agent that blocks the COVID virus." Wait, what do you mean by they want to explain to them at a kindergarten level?
Yeah.
By whom?
By the other people on this fucking Facebook group. They feel they're not getting simplistic enough instructions.
On how to eat horse paste?
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, here's some questions. I was told not to take it orally, but instead rub it into my armpit. Can anyone in this group tell me how you take the paste orally or in your armpit?
I mean, the armpit isn't going to do jack shit. I mean, you could probably put it up your butt.
Some of these pastes are labeled for topical use because they're to get rid of like skin parasites.
Right, yeah.
And so probably somebody saw that and they were like, oh, you don't even need to take it. You just rub it on your body, which at least they're probably not hurting themselves.
Yeah. I mean, putting it up your butthole
would be bad, I think. Does anyone throw up after they've taken ivermectin? Is this the right stuff? I bought it off Amazon.
Yikes.
And then another person later says, hubby started running fever. I have the paste. He weights about 250.
I have the paste.
He weights about 250. I have seen the lists. However, I need someone to break it down for me in kindergarten terms.
They want someone to say, take one pinky's length of paste.
I guess. I don't know.
Uh-huh. I mean, what they're saying is that the units of measurement
are in milligrams.
But
they've got a tube of paste.
We need freedom units here. Yeah. 1 hogshead of paste, please.
My whole family is sick and I just got a nebulizer. I've been searching for measurements, but I can't find them. I have a bad brain fog, though, too. I'd like to nebulize colloidal silver, and I'm wondering if I dilute it with distilled water or use the saline water, and how much silver I should use. Thanks for any answers.
That's what you want, your lungs full of silver. We're going to have to really cut around the parts of this that make us seem mean-spirited.
Well, I don't think we should be saying any of this on the podcast. Look, I'm a nice person, and I don't think it's even a little bit funny that people are taking horse medicine.
Listen, dear listener, lest you think that we are making light of people who think it is in their best interest to eat horse paste, you should know, and I feel comfortable I've
oh man, you're really gonna
talked about how I voted for George W. Bush in the year 2000 on this podcast already.
Ooh, that's embarrassing.
When I was 18. I, at this very moment, have horse paste in this house.
Yeah, we've had throughout the pandemic, we have had this difference of opinion where repeatedly you have bought things because it's a preprint that you saw somewhere suggested that it might be useful.
Right. Let's be clear. I have not eaten the horse paste. There was a compelling preprint published on ivermectin use I got this pre-vaccine, so I was trying to have in the house any cheap possible option for in the occasion that we did get sick. I could then, see what the state of the research was, and if it seemed like it was a low harm, high possible gain practice, then I could do that thing. However, the preprint was withdrawn in scandal, and at that point in time, I no longer considered eating the horse paste.
Can you confirm for the audience that my position has pretty consistently the whole time been we shouldn't mess with too many new drugs or supplements or take anything that hasn't been really rigorously shown to be beneficial because for all we know, it could be harmful?
That has been your position. And my position was we should have some horse paste in the house in case it turns out that it is beneficial. But let's, dear listener, it is not beneficial. Don't eat the horse paste. I haven't eaten the horse paste. Don't eat the horse paste. It's now.
Well, now they know you have it, so they're gonna try to get it.
Well,
from you. Everybody wants the paste.
I can resell it at markup.
You should not resell it. No one who's trying to buy horse paste right now should be getting it. Don't supply someone with horse paste.
What's the connection to this podcast? It is apple flavored.
Stupid question, but why do they put up all those things inside feed stores about how ivermectin can kill humans? And then a picture of a box and it says, "Is this good ivermectin?" How much ivermectin for children under 10-year-old?
One good squirt.
Oof.
Speaking of one good squirt, there's this article in The Guardian.
Nice segue.
Thank you. This article in The Guardian that I'll link to that I wanted to share. Currently, as you go to it right now, the article is titled, "Harvesting the Seed of a Favorite Plant is One of Gardening's Great Pleasures." And it's a nice little article about seed keeping. You know, it's nothing, it's not particularly substantial, but, you know, anytime seed keeping is in the news, I think that is doing us all a service. But at the bottom of this article, there's a correction noted. I guess the headline on this story was initially, "Harvesting your own seed is one of gardening's great pleasures."
Yeah.
I think we can all agree with that.
The headline on this story was changed to avoid any ambiguity.
I mean, I don't even know what could possibly be implied by the initial headline, that jerking off is a thing that gardeners love.
Gardeners
in
love
particular.
to jerk off.
Yeah. Ooh, speaking of corrections, I also want to issue an official CD Business correction. I'd read a remark made by a listener on a previous episode, and I didn't even have to go back and listen to it to know that it was I and not you that mispronounced this. But there was a remark made by someone with the handle Goudy Bold Italic. I pronounced it Goody. And they reached out to me with a gentle correction and a link to know more about various fonts. So sorry about that. Also, I'll issue an additional correction. In our last Gurney's episode, I had asserted that it was Burgess that owned a lot of other, secretly owned a lot of other catalogs that we looked at. But it is in fact not. It is Jung. The careful listener would remember that it is in fact Jung Seeds that secretly owns a lot of other seed catalogs. I realized this when I was doing research for today's catalog. That'll be clear why in just a little bit.
You're Phil McCracken.
And you're Don Kedick. And this, I suppose, is CD Business.
It's CD Business. It's CD Business.
We are, in fact, Allison and Roman. Allison was referring to a clip of someone Bart Simpsoning a school board meeting that we've been really enjoying. Should I just play that?
Yeah, play
clip?
some of that audio.
You guys work for us in this environment. You answer to us, and I'm asking that you do not pass this policy in Virginia.
Thank you so
in
much,
this
Ms.
county.
Thomas. We do appreciate you. Phil McCracken. Phil McCracken. Ophelia McHawk. Ophelia McHawk. Eileen Dover.
That's so dumb.
Eileen Dover. Don Kedick. Don Kedick. Wayne Kerr. Wayne Kerr.
Yeah.
Wow, those kids must be so proud of themselves.
Yeah, wow. Absolute winners. Okay. It is Sunday, early afternoon. It's the last Sunday in August that we are recording in right now. It's a hot, sunny day. We've had a stretch of days where it has not rained a lot. I mean, we almost always get a 4 p.m. absolute torrential downpour, but apart from that, it has been characteristically blisteringly sunny. Allison, a number of things have transpired in our garden over this past week or two. What's happening in our garden?
Then let us cultivate our garden. It's the only way to make life endurable.
What's in the garden?
Well, the kumquat tree doesn't know what it's doing, as far as I can tell.
It's doing a lot, though.
It's doing a lot of things I don't think is supposed to be doing. I don't know if the climate is causing it to behave abnormally or if it's something we're doing. Truly, I can't tell. It's flowered yet again. It's had another round of flowers,
Right.
which is the fourth round. And now we're in truly the height of summer.
Well, so in our previous episode, we discussed how we had issues with some of them prematurely ripening, some of the kumquats prematurely ripening, how there were some bugs on them. So since then, we have lovingly oiled the tree. We have sprayed it with some diluted mineral oil, which you're supposed to do. We have fertilized it. We've put some fucking copper shit on it. What's the deal with that?
I did a copper fungicide.
Right. We have lovingly caressed all the leaves of this tree to try to get them to not be fucked up.
And now it's bearing a heavy crop of fruit that continues to ripen
Yeah.
here in late August and is also flowering again.
It
So it
can't
plans to
stop
keep
flowering.
making more fruit.
Yeah. Indefinitely.
And the fruit that it has is ripening. And
Right.
I don't know what's going on. But I'm thinking about trying to make something with these partially ripe kumquats because it's clear they're not going to stay on the tree until their time.
Yeah.
I was thinking about making sort of a variation on orange liqueur.
Ooh. Yeah, that sounds great. Can they ripen off the vine a little?
Citrus fruit does not ripen off the tree. So whenever they fall off, that's as ripe as they're going to be.
Okay. Well, you do have a small dish of something in front of you. What's going on with that?
Well, we finally had a few tomatoes ripen.
A literal few.
To be fair, I've been extremely negligent and dispirited.
Well, they
the
were
garden.
just on the vine and green for so very long.
Yeah.
Give me one of those babies, though. I want to eat one. Got a couple red boys and a couple purple boys. Do you remember what the varieties here are?
I no longer do, actually.
I'm gonna eat one of the purple ones. They look pretty good. Wow, I feel some trepidation because this could be the first good tomato I've eaten in years, if it is good. But what if it's bad? What if it's a cucamelon experience?
Well, I just had one of the red ones and it was fine.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna eat one of the purple ones. Here we go. Oh, it's great.
I can't believe you're eating that into the mic. It's horrible. It's horrible for me right now.
Do you want one?
Sure. Yeah, that tastes like a tomato.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, great news. Today's catalog is all about tomatoes. It is, in fact, the Tomato Growers Supply Company, their 2021 catalog. So we talked about doing this one for a while. We thought waiting until late summer would be appropriate for a tomato-centric episode. This company was founded in 1984 out of Fort Myers, Florida. So, it turns out, I guess, you can grow tomatoes in Florida. You just can't grow tomatoes in actual literal sand, which we have. It's kind of hard to find information on the history of the catalog, but I did find some evidence of a ownership lineage on some web forums. It seems like everything has moved to Reddit now, that it used to be a standalone web forum, but there is a forum, Tomatoville, that was active at one point, more active than it is now, where in December of 2017, somebody with the handle Tomatovillain
Nice.
posted an email from the founder and then owner Linda Sapp, indicating she was retiring and had sold her business to a husband and wife team who had themselves 30 years of experience in the seed game. I assume this is the Tracy and Danny, who read a short note on the inside cover of the catalog and who is mentioned on their website. I was able to track down some remarks made by Linda Sapp in a few newspapers. An article from 2000 in the Baltimore Sun quotes Linda Sapp as noting that they carry about 400 varieties and send out about 500,000 seed packets per year. I have found information these days that they are up to about 600 varieties that they sell, so that is marvelous. At that point in the year 2000, she noted that their brandy wines were particularly good sellers, as well as Santa and Caspian Pink. A 1993 article in the South Florida Sun-Sentinel quotes Linda as characterizing tomatoes as the one vegetable I can think of where you cannot go into a regular grocery store and buy something that tastes as good as what you can grow at home. I don't know if it's the one vegetable that for which that is true, but it is certainly the most pronounced.
The chief, yeah.
Yeah. And then there was a 1990 article from the Orlando Sentinel where she notes that pineapple was their top seller at that point. So we can maybe see how tastes have changed over time. It looks like Linda and her late husband Vince developed the now legendary black cherry tomato, which we can read a description of in a little bit. People on the Tomatoville forum apparently reached out to ask her what how they bred this one, what the parents were for this variety, but she was not forthcoming with that information. And actually, I've looked at other sites that sell this variety, the black cherry, and they almost always note in their description that attempts to find out how this variety was bred came to naught. So they're pretty secretive about the black cherry. And maybe now that she's retired and Vince is dead, that information they will take that with them to the grave, perhaps.
I'm sure tomato geneticists will figure it out if they want to.
Yeah, I guess you can't hide that from the nerds forever.
Yeah. There's this company that sells a blended seaweed product we use to feed some of our animals, but they won't tell you what all the species of seaweed are. And I keep thinking, I'll show you. I mean, it's pretty annoying and it's not really worth my time, but it so annoys me that they won't just say that I'm sort of tempted to just find out.
Yeah. So yeah, when we were thinking about doing a tomato catalog, I was sort of deciding between this one, Tomato Growers Supply Company, and also there is Totally Tomatoes. But Totally Tomatoes, it turns out, is one of those that is owned by Jung Seeds that I mentioned in the opening here, the multinational conglomerate that is Jung Seeds. But unlike Totally Tomatoes, Tomato Growers Supply Company does appear to still be independently owned, not backed by shadow capital. So we think this is the better tomato catalog to focus on today.
Big Seed. You know, Big Seed is. I mean, I'm joking, but actually, Big Seed is out there.
Yeah. I'll show you.
Also, I leaned over.
Yeah, gross.
So dumb.
So much like the chiltepines that sort of all of our hot peppers now were bred out of, and they're these little tiny things. Tomatoes were originally also pea-sized. They were, initially domesticated and used in cooking by the Aztecs and other peoples in Mesoamerica. And the Spanish brought them back to Europe, used them initially primarily as ornamentals because they viewed them as being suspicious, being nightshades. They were familiar with belladonna. It also would be remiss not to mention the tomatoes as fruit or vegetable question, which I feel like there were 5 things that they made sure that you knew in elementary school. Those things were dinosaurs are birds, some shit about the pilgrims, and that tomatoes are fruits. They really drove that point home for whatever reason.
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
Yeah. But it turns out that the Supreme Court did decide that question in 1893 in Nix versus Hedden, where they, determined, and it was a unanimous 9-0 decision that the tomato should be classified as a vegetable rather than a fruit. And although it is a fruit, botanically speaking, it is eaten as a vegetable culturally. So for the purposes of custom regulations, it should be seen as a vegetable. That was the determination.
In much the same way that the Supreme Court decided X-Men aren't humans.
What are they?
Well, exactly.
Oh,
The
wow.
entire X-Men series is about recognizing the humanity of the X-Men.
Hmm.
But for the purposes of importing toys, there's a lower cost to import toys that are not a representative of a human being. And they were able to successfully argue in court that the X-Men are not humans. So the
Whoa.
X-Men toys are not representations of humans and they can import them more cheaply.
Wow. Do you know that the carrot is a fruit in the European Union for the purposes of jam classification?
Well, that's exactly the kind of messed up shit you get over in Europe.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Here we have freedom carrots.
All right, well, tell me what you think of the physical catalog. I'll note that the on the Tomatoville forums, they were at one point discussing how Linda Sapp, the original owner, used to like directly oversee the printing of the catalogs. They say she would fly to wherever they were being printed to, you know, inspect the color representation in all of the photographs to make sure that they were accurate. Is now in different ownership hands, but what does it look like now?
I mean, I guess it's middle of the road. The cover's a mess. The front cover's a real disaster, I think.
Hmm.
They've got a border at the top of a bunch of like clip art.
Mhm. The front cover is gaudy, not gaudy, but in fact gaudy.
It's got a real like 70s font.
It does,
is their
yeah.
title font.
Mhm.
They've got illustrations of a bunch of products on the front, which I normally like, but just the overall layout of the front cover is so... It's not that it's too busy. It's not that the images they chose are inherently unattractive or something, but the way the cover is laid out just seems really amateurish.
I also, as you do, I think, tend to favor catalogs that have nice illustrations in them. These illustrations, I don't want to besmirch whoever did them, but they lack like a warmth that I've come to appreciate about a lot of illustrations in catalogs that are done well.
Yeah, and I just think the overall composition, maybe the same images laid out differently
Yeah.
on the catalog
Mhm.
would hit differently.
Yeah.
But something about the mismatch between the sort of goofy clip art and they've got a little icon on there that's a tomato wearing a crown that
Well,
says celebrating 37 years
I love
in
that
business.
shit. That's good shit.
Yeah, it's just all sort of mismatched.
Will you describe what is being illustrated on the cover?
Sure, I guess these are probably acrylic paintings or something. They've got a cauliflower, four different tomatoes, a couple different peppers, and a red onion. It's sort of a casual painting technique. It's not meant to really be like a scientific illustration in any way.
Yeah, it's neither. That's a good way of describing it. It is neither like a hyper realistic illustration, not like a scientific diagram, but not particularly artful either. It's just like sitting somewhere in the middle. We should note that this catalog is just tons of tomatoes that they offer. They also offer, I guess maybe that implies they offer cauliflower. I didn't see where that was inside. They do have a section for a fairly extensive pepper section, along with eggplants. So they've got substantial nightshades that they offer, as well as some cucumbers, squash, kale, onions, other herbs and type things. But the vast majority of the catalog is tomatoes. How about internally?
So internally, I would say it's no longer true, if it indeed was at some point. It's no longer the case that someone painstakingly insists that every color photo accurately represent the color of the product, I would say, because the saturation is really turned up on some of these tomato photographs, right? That's not an accurate representation of nature.
Which is a technique that some of these catalogs use to try to make stuff look even sexier, I think. You never see a catalog where the colors of the photographs look washed out. The saturation is always jacked up, if anything.
But I will say the pages are laid out very competently. And then each section has different categories of tomatoes. So and they're color coded. So the description is color coded to the type, to the category. So the categories are early season, mid season, late season, ox hearts, greenhouse/high tunnel, beefsteak, paste,
Cool.
small fruited, bicolor, black, green, which is color coded magenta for some reason, orange, white, artisan, rootstocks, indigo, yellow, and tomatillos.
I'm really intrigued by the concept of white tomatoes. I don't think I've ever seen or heard of before.
Well, I mean, they're pale yellow.
They're pale yellow.
So, I mean, a lot of different categories, and I think that's helpfully organized and laid out and
Sure.
everything. Shall we get into the descriptions?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's start with white tomatoes.
Yeah. I'll read the White Queen tomato. This variety offers some of the nicest shape and whitest color of any of the white varieties. Beefsteak type fruit, weighs 8 to 12 ounces, and is smooth except for ribbed shoulders. Some fruit have a pink blush or streaks on their blossom ends, and all ripen to pale creamy yellow with no cracking. Tomatoes are juicy and sweet with a well-balanced flavor.
So immediately, I'm noticing that the print catalog descriptions are shortened from the web catalog.
Yeah, I understand that sort of
Totally reasonable.
culling for space. Yeah.
And I think they've done a good job of editing. They've left it substantially the same and removed a little bit here and there to get
Yeah.
it to whatever their desired catalog length is. Snow White. Delightful ivory-colored cherry tomatoes ripen to pale yellow and are deliciously sweet without being sugary. This variety was hybridized by Joe Brodka, and seed was given to us by a local friend who obtained it years ago in a seed swap. This is one you'll find yourself snacking on in the garden because it tastes so good.
What do you think it means when something is sweet without being sugary?
That doesn't seem like it means anything to me.
It's hard to know what that could mean. Like if you're trying to say sweet but not too sweet, I guess maybe that is a way of getting that across. The photograph of this, they look like little potatoes or something. These white potatoes are really fascinating to look at.
Tomatoes.
Yes, tomatoes. You know, you say tomato, I say potato. Let's call the whole thing off. I'll read the coyote tomato. Delightful little cherry tomatoes are creamy ivory with hints of yellow and an absolutely unforgettable taste. The flavor is not only sweet, but is also marked by a fruity complexity. They are so irresistible that you won't want to stop eating them at harvest time. Plants are large and quite prolific, bearing long clusters of these half-inch delicious little treats. Heirloom variety originally from Mexico. Yeah, these are, I mean, let's be clear. As I look at the photographs of these white tomatoes, they're all yellow, right? They're all yellow, just a very pale yellow. But this one is pale and almost translucent, where, you know, if you look at the image closely, I feel like I can see the like veining. I can see sort of into it.
Yeah.
Which is cool, I think. I wish we had more fruits and vegetables that were translucent and you could see what was going on inside.
Ew.
I don't know, is that unappealing?
Well, the way you framed it suddenly made it unappealing.
Well, you could know if maybe there's a little bug living in there. You don't want to bother the bug.
White Beauty. Creamy white color inside and outside make White Beauty a rarity. Extremely mild and sweet because of a high sugar content. Fruits average 8 ounces and are quite meaty with few seeds.
Well, that one is sweet because of high sugar. It's both sugary and sweet.
And meaty.
A sweet meat treat. I am really interested in reading some of the paste ones, which I don't think I've ever seen a category in a catalog of tomatoes that are specifically grown for that reason.
That is not uncommon.
Huh.
But yeah, let's read paste tomatoes.
So they're all oblong shaped, it looks like. Some of these look like peppers. I'll read the speckled Roman tomato, my namesake. Truly special paste tomato is about 5 inches long and red with jagged golden stripes. Meaty. 6 to 8 ounce tomatoes are great for processing into sauce and paste, but are so flavorful that you will also want to enjoy some fresh in salads. Vigorous plants produce heavily. This variety was developed by John Swenson, a member of Seed Savers Exchange. Yeah, and they look like peppers to me. They're red and have these sort of jagged yellowish streaks on them.
Yeah, similarly, this next tomato, it comes to a real point at the end. It's really pepper-shaped. The Jersey Devil. This prolific variety has four...
Hold on, I just want to stop you because the website description begins, it looks to be identical, but begins, "It's back!" exclamation point. And
oh man, that's good. I'm sorry that
didn't
got
make
cut.
it in. Yeah, but
To be honest, there is enough space in this catalog. They're generous about the white space. If they wanted to put all
It's
the
back
text
in
in
there.
there, yeah, they absolutely could fit it.
All right, hit me with it.
Jersey Devil. It's back. This prolific variety has 4 to 6 inch long tapered red fruits shaped like banana peppers. The tomatoes are very meaty and sweet with few seeds, great for sauces, salsas, or even eating fresh. Color is a gorgeous bright red, and yield is impressive.
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine something about, the fact that they come to that point makes it very difficult for me to imagine biting into one and having it yield in the way that a tomato would instead of being crunchy like a pepper. I'll read the Margarita VF Hybrid tomato. This tomato was named after Pizza Margherita, the classic summertime pie topped with mozzarella, tomatoes, and fresh basil. The good news is these elongated 5 to 6 inch paste tomatoes are also great for many other dishes. Roasting brings out their best flavor, and deep red color and thin skin make them perfect for tossing into pasta or sandwiches. Vigorous plants yield large harvests.
Well, I'm not sure I would have a tossed sandwich, but...
A deconstructed sandwich, isn't that all the trend these days? You make a sandwich, just sort of fucking toss it in the air. However it comes down, serve it right up.
I'd like to look at some of the small fruited varieties.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly excited by the Princess Yum Yum hybrid,
Ooh.
which is illustrated by a photograph of a tomato, and they've put a bejeweled crown on the tomato.
Whoa.
So they somehow had or found or made a tiny cherry tomato sized crown. Princess Yum Yum hybrid. This tomato demands recognition for a flavor worthy of the royal family. She has the highest sugar content of all our trial garden tomatoes. She resists fusarium, powdery mildew, tomato mosaic virus, tomato yellow leaf curl virus, and late blight. She stands apart with her striking profile of long, trailing, brilliant red fruit clusters. Invite the princess into your garden and you won't be disappointed.
Cool. I want to read their black cherry tomato, their mysterious in origin one that they made.
Sure, is that under small fruited or is it under black?
It's under black.
Now that's just confusing because they've got a yellow cherry tomato under small fruited.
Yeah, well...
So there is the downfall of this classification scheme.
Right. You should do only color or only something else. You can't do color and other things, or else it begins to become very confusing. I do not know what the variety was that I ate a few minutes ago, but it sure did look like it could have been a black cherry tomato.
I think it very well might have been, and I think the other one is a Juliet hybrid.
Okay.
And then the one that we haven't gotten any fruit from was a Beams yellow pear.
All right, well, let's just say it was a black cherry because that slots in real well with the episode we're recording right now. Their description is, this is the first truly black cherry tomato and our own exclusive variety. It is not a plum, but a perfectly round cherry with classic black tomato flavor, sweet yet rich and complex. Fruit picks clean from the stem and is produced in abundance on vigorous, tall plants. These cherries are irresistibly delicious and a unique addition to the color spectrum of cherry tomatoes now available, selected by the founder for sweetness, increased crack tolerance, and yield. I will say that looking at these black tomatoes, it's a real appetizing color palette. Like, I don't know if it's just conditioning me to believe that they are very flavorful, or if there's actually something to that
They're
in the
beautiful.
coloration. They're beautiful. They seem rich. They remind me of balsamic vinegar for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, these all look great and nice tasting. Do you want to read another black?
Sure, I'll read chocolate sprinkles. With a name like a confection and striped dark chocolate grape-shaped tomatoes, this one is too tempting to pass up. The fruit is delightfully sweet with a rich, balanced flavor, perfect for snacking or adding on top of salads. Tall, disease-resistant plants bear huge crops of these delectable, crack-resistant cherry tomatoes.
And of course, we've promised to always read the Paul Robeson description if there is one. So their Paul Robeson description is one of the most highly regarded black tomatoes. This one features medium-sized, deep maroon fruits that are free of most blemishes and cracking. Their flavor is complex, sweet yet tangy, and characteristic of that distinctive richness that makes black tomatoes special. Russian heirloom.
So overall, I think these descriptions are pretty good, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
They have the actual information that you might want in general and are competently written.
Yeah.
Well, how about we mix it up with a couple yellow tomatoes?
Okay.
Pork chop. This tomato is a beautiful lemon yellow when ripe, with a sweet flavor that has a refreshing citrus component. The 8 to 12 ounce tomatoes start off yellow with thin green stripes that disappear once they ripen to solid yellow. This is another great variety from Brad Gates of Wild Boar Farms.
I had a friend in grad school, Jenny. This might have been my first year in grad school. We were talking, and I noted that I'd never had a nickname. And she said, if you come up with a nickname, I'll call you that. And I said, Pork Chop.
Wow.
And she always called me Pork Chop after that, which I thought was nice. Gross name for a tomato, though. Also a gross name for a tomato, the pineapple pig tomato. So it seems like a real companion to pork chop. Vigorous, indeterminate vines produce delicious yellow fruit and a creamy and intense sweet flavor. Fruit are large, reaching up to 1 pound, lower in acid than most tomatoes. The powerful flavor punch makes this variety particularly enjoyable. The fruit have a rose-colored blush at peak ripeness near the blossom end.
I'd also like to draw your attention to the yellow stuffer, which A, has a great name, and B, is bell pepper shaped.
Oh.
So it's not pointed on the end like a hot pepper, sweet pepper, whatever, but it's 4 quadrants, like a bell pepper.
To me, that implies not that you want to stuff it with something, it's that you want to stuff it into something.
No, I think it's to be stuffed with. It's for making stuffed tomatoes.
Yeah, I guess.
Wait, why would it being shaped like a bell pepper mean you stuff it into things and not that you stuff it with things?
I thought you meant elongated until I looked at it. I thought it was a butthole shaped.
But also you know what a bell pepper is.
I've heard of them.
And you understand what a stuffed pepper or a stuffed tomato would be.
Conceptually. What would you stuff in this tomato?
Tuna salad or something, right? That's what a stuffed tomato is. You put like
tuna salad. That's a good.
You put like a cold mixed salad, like a bunch of stuff
something
held together with
based.
mayonnaise. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And you put it in the tomato.
Sure. Oh, wow. They show the cross section of this, and it does have, so they cut this tomato open, and it does have a lot of negative space in it, like you would imagine would be inside of a bell pepper. I will say that these descriptions don't generally tell you what various disease resistances they have.
Except for Princess Yum Yum.
Princess Yum Yum did, but I don't know. Sometimes I want to know what kind of blight I should expect. I'm trying to segue into our final topic of the day, which really is maybe more in line with the seedy business ethos than anything we've talked about, which is corn smut.
Well, yeah, that's how you harvest your own seed. As you look at corn smut.
Corn smut. So this came up yesterday. Allison was having some fake chicken nuggets for dinner that are made out of some sort of fungus, right? That's the protein source?
Yeah.
And that fungus is not, in this case, corn smut.
It's not, but the implication is that it is because the product is called corn.
Right. So what is corn smut?
It's a fungus that gets inside corn kernels and makes them grow all big and weird.
Yeah.
And they look just terrible, but it's apparently a great delicacy.
So it makes them get enormous?
I guess it makes all parts of the plant grow galls, but if the galls are growing in the kernels of an ear, then that makes it delicious because it's got all that, sugar and starch and stuff from the corn feeding it, I guess. I don't know.
The
I've never
images
had it.
are graphic and striking. The in the etymology section of the corn smut Wikipedia page, it has some speculation on where the term came from. And apparently there's a group of sources that deem the word to mean raven's excrement.
Huitlacoche means raven's excrement?
Yeah.
Okay. It totally looks, at least in this picture I'm looking at, it totally looks like if you had a head of garlic that was sort of turning inside out.
Yeah.
It's pretty dramatic.
Yeah. So it's pathogenic to the corn, obviously, but it's delicious and not harmful to us.
I think it's just delicious. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's bad for the corn. It's also one of those delicacies have often come about because you've kind of got to
something got nasty.
The best of an unavoidable situation. So if your corn crop gets ruined by a fungus, sooner or later people are going to check to see whether the fungus is edible. Because what else are you going to do, right?
Native Americans of the American Southwest, including the Zuni people, have used corn smut in an attempt to induce labor.
Well, people have used a lot of things to induce labor and still do. People love to chug castor oil in the hope that
having explosive diarrhea will also make you go into labor.
Yes, that basically having diarrhea is going to trigger you to go into labor is sort of the theory.
Wow, it's a real win-win. All right. Well, if you're so inclined, you can elect to follow us on Twitter at CDBusiness or on Instagram at CDBusinessPod. You can email us at cdbusinesspod@gmail.com. Let us know if you want to talk about a particular catalog. If you leave us a review, we'll be delighted to read it, mispronouncing your name in the process, almost certainly. And assuming it's afflicted by a delicious pathogenic smut, you should eat your vegetables.
We're all just doing the best we can.
Speak for yourself.
It's city business. It's city business. Boring talk about seeds, city talk between boys. Mind-numbing chatter about ovules and spores. We'll dig a ditch and moan and split the difference. City business. It's city business.